So it's been a while since I did a history video, and we're going to talk about a company that is one of the largest LTL carriers in the nation. Started with one truck in 1934. And you know what company I'm talking about because you clicked on it. I'm talking about Old Dominion Freight Lines. So for those of you that are all about the history videos that I've done in the past, I apologize. It's been a little while since I did any. To be honest with you, was just a bit worn out on it. I had done a lot of them right in a row, but now I'm ready to get back into doing them, sporadically, maybe one a week, one every other week. But this is Old Dominion, the story of Old Dominion, who I can't believe I missed this, but it was through all the yellow, and I was doing Teamster companies, things like that. But Old Dominion was a Teamster company. But we'll get to that. But anyway, Old Dominion was founded in 1934 by Earl and Lillian Conden, and they found it to run one straight truck between Richmond and Norfolk, Virginia. And they actually ran the company from the family's home with Earl as the only driver, although Lillian would drive the truck if she was needed. And she actually ran the company 50-50 with him. So this may be one of the earliest female-owned companies, although she wasn't 100% owner. I did look into it, and I couldn't actually find anything. It was sporadic, like what first female-owned company, trucking company, and it came down to variations of a trucking company, not a straight-only trucking company. But anyway, after the Motor Carrier Act of 1935, they were granted authority to run only between Richmond and Norfolk. Remember, that's how regulation worked, 45 years before deregulation. So by 1936, they were operating out of a two-bay shop that they shared with overnight transport. Old Dominion had 6 tractor trailers and 12 straight trucks at that time. So pretty quick expansion there, in 2 years they grew to that. In 1939, there was an attempt to unionize, but it was unsuccessful. So up until 1940, all profits were used for expansion. And by 1940, they had 3 terminals and 57 employees. In 1940, the drivers were successful in unionizing, and this time it was with the support of Earl Conden. And the way I understand it is it was one of his larger customers that encouraged him to allow his employees to unionize, or to, I don't want to say allow, because there's not really an allow to it, but he supported them and it went much quicker. So in the 1940s, they switched their colors from navy blue and red to dark green, which they remain today. Now here's a funny story of why they did that. Apparently, Earl ordered a whole bunch of new International Harvester trucks, and they came in the wrong color. They were dark green. And he figured rather than paint his brand new trucks to match the old ones, he would paint the old ones to match the new ones, therefore keeping the brand new paint job. And that is where the green came from. That's pretty interesting, I thought. But yeah, anyway. In the early during World War II, their business thrived, and you can tell why. It's Richmond to Norfolk, huge base over there, huge port, and, it was war efforts. During that time, they were able to buy New Dixie Transport and expand to lanes from Richmond to multiple points in North Carolina. But in 1942, they bought 3 Virginia interstate operating lanes from Wilson Trucking, and then they dropped their North Carolina authority. The reason is because they wanted to focus on their Virginia authority, because World War II was still in full swing, and they had more need for, to get to the ports, to get to the big base there in Norfolk. So, this is another one of the companies that really thrived during World War II, one of the worst times in our nation's history. But I don't know, I guess there were some good things that came out of it. But so by 1944, they had 14 straight trucks, 18 tractors, and 25 trailers, and were running all over Virginia, basically to Norfolk. War effort again. But in 1946, there was a national Teamster Strike. And I don't know what would have sparked this. I mean, by that time, the war was over. Yeah, who knows what sparked it. I should look into that because it's come up in other companies that I've done. But this actually caused them to have to sell their profitable Richmond to Norfolk authority. Now, they still had the other authorities. They also laid off most of their office staff because they're a trucking company. The drivers weren't running. But right before the strike was over, their Richmond drivers left the union so that they could come back to work. Apparently, there were some other terminals that stayed in the union, but the Richmond being the main one, they left the union. So I would imagine as they replaced the drivers from the other terminals as they were, retiring or quitting or whatever, I would imagine they were just replacing them with non-union drivers because there's no talk of the union ever again. Whether that was the reason for part of their huge success or not, I honestly don't know. But Earl Conden died in 1950 and Lillian took over the company. She ran the whole company, and that also made her now 100% owner of the company. So in 1957, Lillian was joined by her sons, Earl Jr. and Jack. They then expanded their operations back into North Carolina. They bought and merged with a company called Bottoms-Fisk, Bottoms-Fisk. And they moved their headquarters to High Point, North Carolina. So this was in 1962 they moved to High Point, North Carolina and did the merge. So that's about all the history. They just kept growing. It says they were buying up other small companies and operating authority. Now here's a big thing where a lot of other companies failed. After deregulation, Old Dominion expanded its operations to mostly all big cities. It says California, Florida. It also expanded to Chicago, Dallas, the states of Florida, California, and then Chicago, Dallas, some of the other big cities they're expanding to at this point. It almost seems like they embraced deregulation and just rolled with it. And maybe they had the money, to do so. But the company thrives through time. In 1991, the company went public. So usually by most companies that I've done histories on, by the 1990s, this is when they were failing miserably, if they did hold on that long, because of deregulation. So I don't know why. I actually have a theory that I'll tell you here at the end. So the grandson of the original founders, Earl and Lillian, his name was David Conden, and he was actually Earl Jr.'s son. He ran the company from 1997 until 2018. And this was when Greg Gant took over as the first CEO that was not a Conden. So as we know, today Old Dominion is huge. Today Old Dominion has over 23,000 employees and 256 terminals. And of course, they're one of the companies that were able to expand, like Saia, ABF, all the companies that expanded with the downfall of Yellow. So I said I would tell you my theory on why the company survived so well, and I really think it is family. I think it is CEOs that cared about the company, not CEOs that were brought in as Yellow had for years and years. CEOs that were brought in to get paid big bucks and move on when another offer came along. They had skin in this game. It was their family legacy. And I really think that that's a lot to it. I'm going to put up here the ABF story, because that's another company that I believe thrived throughout the years because it had people that cared, and it had the family, the members that started the company. And yeah, I think when their heart's in it, and the ABF story, still one of the best stories ever, how, they risked everything, literally risked everything in a somewhat shady deal to keep from being taken over. So Yeah, another great company. My hats off to you, Congdon family. I love good stories from one truck to, it doesn't say how many trucks they have now, but 23,000 employees. We see their trucks all over the roads, and yeah, like I said, I'm going to do some more videos here. This was a happy video. The company's still in business, and but thanks for watching, guys. Like and subscribe if you're not already. Comment. I do read all the comments. I respond to most of them. If you don't want to comment, you can email me at finchresources@gmail.com. You can also find me on Facebook and Instagram under the Trucking Resources name. So, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll catch you on the next one.